Hi, my name is Robin Lutke, and I'm a mortgage consultant with Edina Realty Mortgage. And today I wanted to talk to you about supply and demand. If you are thinking that this is your year to buy a home, you might want to look at doing that now instead of waiting till later in the year. In a normal year, many more buyers are out in the market in the spring and the summer and even in the fall. And this time of year, and then November, December, is typically a little bit slower, not as many buyers out there in the market. Well, what that means is if there aren't a lot of buyers out there, you will have less competition when you find a home that you want to make an offer on. And that might mean that that seller is willing to negotiate with you. When a seller has 10 different buyers making an offer on their home, the seller doesn't have to negotiate anything. Highest price of the buyer gets the home. But that's really not where things are at right now because there aren't quite as many buyers out in the market. So that seller might be willing to negotiate price or some other terms that you would have in your purchase agreement. So one of those items that they might look at negotiating is seller concessions. Now, there's a few different types of concessions that I want to talk about today. The first one is closing cost assistance. So what that means is when you make an offer to a seller to buy their home for a certain price, part of that offer is that the seller will pay some of the buyer's closing costs. And it might be $5,000 or $7,000 in closing cost assistance. And what that does for the buyer is that keeps more of their money in their pocket. And because the seller is helping out with those costs. Another item might be that the seller would be willing to do some repairs on their home. And it might be they would put in new carpeting before the house closes, or replace some appliances, or maybe fix something like, leaky faucet or shower that doesn't work, or some things like that. So again, they might be more willing to work with a buyer when there aren't as many buyers out there for them to choose to work with. And the third type of concession would be interest rate buy down. So that would mean that the sellers would be helping out to buy the buyer's interest rate down to a lower interest rate, which would reduce the buyer's monthly payment. And that buy down can either be a long-term buy down, which means over the 30-year loan, or a short-term buy down that might buy the rate down for 1 or 2 years. In the beginning for when the buyer owns the home. So really what the seller is going to be doing in either of those cases, either the long-term buy down or a short-term buy down, is just prepaying the interest at closing that buyer would have been paying. So that is another great way to help a buyer get into a home, and something that a buyer and seller can negotiate with each other when there aren't as many buyers out there in the market. Again, if a seller has 10 buyers making an offer on his house, he probably doesn't have to do any of those things that we just talked about. But when there's less competition with buyers, the sellers might be very happy to work with a buyer who gives them a great offer, and then in return can negotiate in some of those concessions. So things really to keep in mind: timing is everything. So if you are thinking that this is your year to buy a home, that is very exciting. But I would suggest that you reach out to me and we figure out what your current situation is and how we can get you into that dream home sooner rather than later. Any questions, please feel free to reach out. Again, Robin Lutke, Edina Realty Mortgage. Thank you very much.